I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah. I mean, you had more experience than me. So, just before we jump in, welcome to the next episode of the Netram Podcast. We did start this in 2020, but we had a funny little thing that happened in January, and it came to a grinding halt. Without further ado, I want to kick off this next episode with a very interesting guest. I'll let him introduce himself rather than I will. Hanri.
Yeah, my name is nice to meet you, Brendon. My name is Hanri, and I have a YouTube channel called SoundBlab where I build loudspeakers and other types of audio products.
Amazing, man, amazing. I mean, I've been a fan of the channel for a while. And a mutual friend of ours kind of put me in touch, and he was like, "Hey, do you know Felix from Makerspace?" Felix was like, "Hey, do you know SoundBlab?" I was like, "No ways." I was like, "This is a South African guy with a 160k subs."
I think it's just over about 133.
130k subs. That's impressive, man. Yeah. So you got your YouTube plaque yet?
I do. Yes. Yeah. It's up in my my office. I have a room dedicated in my house, sort of like for editing and. I set everything up there. There's actually a video on my channel sort of like featuring that. So
amazing. I'm going to check it out.
But I've got it up on the wall there.
So how did you get I kind of want to figure out how the journey started, because I know just before you came in, you said you still work a full-time job. You don't YouTube not your sole income.
Yeah.
Well, how did you get started with the YouTube, and how did the YouTube stuff, and how did you figure out hey, you wanted to start making audio equipment and engineering and collaborate it with YouTube? It's quite niche. How did it get started?
Yes. I mean, I can give you the long story if you want that, or I can give you the short one. But I can go fetch it from way back. I don't know. I mean, I've always been interested in sort of like audio stuff ever since I was, maybe like high school. I've always been taking things apart, and I'll take something apart, and then the typical don't know how to get it back together again. And I remember my dad came home one day with a music system. It was a Pioneer Ronda 3000.
Okay, it's like before my time.
Yeah, it's like a full-on integrated system with a tape deck and a turntable and a radio. And I remember I used to listen to 5FM, and then you'll make your mixtapes and you'll record the songs. So I think I might still have some of those tapes actually.
Nice.
But anyway, it sort of like all started there. So it started with a love of music, really.
Okay.
And then I studied industrial design. When I was out of school. So from there on, the journey was mostly around industrial design, but also because of that, I think that love for audio also always sort of like remained.
Yeah. So your passion is in like audio and music. Do you consider yourself like an audiophile of some sort?
I suppose you could. Yes. Yeah. I don't know. It's one of those words that people almost tend not to want to be associated with.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Well, I don't know. I like music. I'm not too. I think audiophiles can get very particular about little details.
What are audiophiles? Just guys who are like obsessed with the frequencies and the way it sounds.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to put them too much in a box. Just guys who have a passion for high-end audio. But guys can get a little bit too particular about the little details, which is also fine. There's space for that.
I can understand it. I used to produce a lot of music when I was a lot younger, and it took me a while to figure out when you listen to music, listen to sounds. It just sounds like sounds. But when you get into the engineering of it, and you can actually start to differentiate the frequencies between your highs and your lows, and what your mid frequencies are, you're like, whoa, how did they get that hi-hat to pop out the rest of that mix? And that can actually get super interesting.
Yeah, no, it gets very interesting.
I can respect it. I mean, I see some headphones and some audio equipment online from like Audio Technica and stuff. That's crazy expensive. And you think to yourself, like they got like glass tubes and glass, I don't know what they are or whatever, but it's like, who would listen to this? And then who would buy this? And then you realize there's guys out there who are super obsessed.
Oh yeah, I know. They get super obsessed with having the best stuff and trying different things. So. But yeah, I mean, I suppose I'm, I'll classify myself as an audiophile, but not like in an excessive way.
Carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, but I mean, it's really just a love of music, to be honest. I love to listen to music at the end of the day, and that process of delving into how can you get the best out of that music.
Do you make any music? Do you produce any music?
No, I am completely unable to play any instrument.
What?
Okay,
surprising.
I can sing. Okay,
amazing.
I'm not gonna give you a sample of that.
Okay.
But
not today. Maybe another time. I get it.
Maybe yeah. So, but anyway, so the journey then continued. And at some point, I mean, I wasn't really giving a lot of attention to that part of my life at that stage, or giving a lot of attention into that passion.
Okay.
It was all sort of like work, because I was running my own business, and everything was focused around that. But then I think it was 2008 we had the recession and the market crashes. That influenced me because I was retrenched at that particular time. From the job that I had. I was working a lot in the sort of like exhibitions industry. So that was a difficult time, but that actually brought me back onto sort of like the audio page. I was presented with a blank sheet, really, blank page, and I could go, okay, cool, what are you going to do with your life now? So
it's interesting how that happens.
And that sort of like I rekindled that passion for audio.
I feel like we're finding a lot of these similar stories coming out now with 2020 with COVID.
Yes,
like a lot of guys just had nothing, like, what do we do now?
Yeah.
We're all sitting at home for 6 months. We don't know what to do. Half of us got retrenched. And then you see these incredible success stories come out of it. Either they started YouTube channels, they started streaming, or they did something they really enjoyed, and it actually took off, right?
Yeah,
it allowed them to take that apprehensive leap of faith.
Yes,
you have no other choice. Like,
you have no other choice. Yeah, So
that's what happened in 2008, I guess, for you.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I mean, like, at that point, I had to find something to do. The doors were closing, just within the area that I was working in, the exhibitions industry. So there wasn't a lot of work at all, it was difficult to find work. So, at that stage, I started to teach myself how to actually do loudspeaker design. But it was difficult because there wasn't a lot of sort of like equipment or software available at that time that will help you do that quite easily.
Yeah.
So it was you had to cobble all kinds of things together and to try and make it work. But that was a good experience because it taught me, the basics of loudspeaker design from a sort of like fundamental point of view. And to actually understand it quite well and how the software works. And it's an
interesting topic, and there's a lot of guys who know this way more than I do. I mean, I know a lot about electronics and how voltages and current works, but there's that whole area of the ohms and how the current works and the amperage works and amplifiers work. That's a little bit gray area for me. A lot of stuff I find fascinating, man. So
yes, yeah. Cool. I mean, I was lucky. I had some background in electronic engineering. I studied electronic engineering for 1 year. Okay. So I learned all the basics. Then I switched over to doing industrial design. Okay. Because I felt the creative arts was a little bit more, what I wanted to do.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I was lucky from that perspective. I had some background knowledge, so it came easier to me, than having to sort of like start from scratch and actually learn. What are ohms and what's a watt and all that.
I hear you. And that stuff can be daunting. That's funny. I have a lot of guys who come in here at Netram, and we speak to guys who seemingly they seem to know what they're talking about. Yeah. And they'll get confused with the basic concepts. Like, is this enough current? Like, is this too much current for this particular thing? I'm like. They have no idea how the voltage and current works, the relation, but they seem to be able to convey themselves pretty well. It's like they know so much in one specific field of electronics, but they lack the fundamentals, and they do it because it can be daunting to have to go back and try to figure out, oh wait, hang on, this and this and relearn a lot of the stuff. But I mean, I recommend guys do it because it's just going to make the current stuff that make more sense.
Yes, no, absolutely.
Sorry about that.
No, it's fine.
I just got to get a coffee quickly. Just one.
Well, if you've made two, I'll take the coffee.
I'm just going to take it anyways. Thank you, my sweets.
Cool.
Appreciate it, Constance.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Superstar. Did you close the door? So I wanted to find out. So, like, obviously, making this kind of stuff, and then having to. For me, with YouTubing and with making video, making content creation in general, it's always like you have two goals in mind. One, you got to make the thing, and you got to make it good, and you got to make sure it works. That's the one thing. And the second thing is, how do I document this process at the same time? Which can be difficult because you don't have to focus on two things at the same time and make sure that both work out correctly. You don't always get it. You don't always get it.
No. I mean, I've had many failed projects. Okay, So I'm at the stage where I'm trying to release like one project every month, which is an insane schedule when you consider what it takes to actually design a loudspeaker. I mean, it takes me. I started to come up with ideas like a year ahead of time.
Wow.
Okay, so, and then and then it's a whole process that I go through, and then throughout the time ideas might change quite radically. Or someone comes along and says, hey, I'm a sponsor, I've got some drivers I want you to test or whatever, and that comes along, and then you have to fit that in, and then the next idea gets shifted on, maybe a few months or whatever, or you ditch it completely. So
I don't know how you even come up with the ideas for different speakers. Like, obviously, I don't have that kind of passion, but I mean, I've seen the channel, I've seen the videos. There's a lot of different ideas you come up with, man.
It's that's a lot of sitting around thinking about what am I going to do? But I suppose when you have a passion for it, it's not that difficult, And that's a great thing about loudspeaker design. There are so many different sort of like concepts, that guys have tried over the year.
Okay.
And for me, over the last, let's say, 6 or 7 years that I've just been doing YouTube. But I mean, I've been designing speakers since, let's say, about 2008. So
okay.
what's that? 14.
It's 12, almost 14
years.
Yeah.
Okay. But just in the time that I've been doing YouTube, so I lost my train of thought there.
I hear what you mean. I kind of know what you're trying to say. I wanted to find out, like, when you're trying to make high quality audio equipment, high quality design stuff, what challenges do you think that you face between trying to make? This is what I was getting to. Like, trying to make the stuff at the same time as trying to make content. What are the things? What's the most difficult part of that process for you? Like trying to make something really good, and then also trying to make the content for it good as well. Like, I've seen all different camera angle changes you have, and there's certain parts of your videos where I don't know what you do with the sound, but you speed up the clips, but the sound still sounds good. Like, it's almost like got that ASMR-esque to it. It's so satisfying to actually hear it. Like, what are the difficult parts that you find, like, is your pet peeve when it comes to this kind of thing?
I mean, like, shooting videos are difficult, and because I'm still all doing it myself. If I had someone hold the camera for me, that would be fantastic. Okay. But that's not the case right now.
So I mean, kind of paint the picture. So when you're doing something, you set the camera up, make sure it's in frame, and then you go and do the part. And
so I mean, like, there are simple ways of doing it. You can literally just keep your camera in one position, okay, and you can try and work within that frame.
Okay.
Or sometimes what I'll do is you need to think a little bit ahead about how you would
think about your shots before the
and that sort of like happens on the go, but sometimes I get so like stuck in what I'm doing, okay, that the camera just remains in one position.
Yeah, you.
And then it can sometimes get a little bit boring, especially if you then just like sort of like speed up that footage, okay. But I mean, I do try and just for you could have quite a simple sort of like procedure of assembling something that would take you 10 minutes, okay, will suddenly take half an hour to an hour because there might be a few different steps in order to do that assembly, okay? But you want to position the camera there for one shot, and then you stop midway, okay? Reposition the camera, get a nice shot from this angle. I should be doing that more, okay? But it just becomes too difficult and long.
Yeah, the 1 hour procedure or the 30-minute procedure would take you to do now turns into 3 hours because you have to reposition the camera. It's crazy. I don't know if this is true, but I know there's this camera called the 360 Insta. Have you heard about it?
Yes. I was actually looking at it the other day because I think they've got a new model out.
Exactly. Yes, and a friend of mine was just telling me that it's got, so obviously it does 360.
Yes.
And then apparently they've got some kind of filter that fixes the fisheye lens.
Yes.
So that you can basically have the camera wherever you want, and then you can just work around it.
You can also reposition your shots.
Yes, in post you can just reposition the shot, right?
That's
and then you can get rid of the fisheye lens kind of look.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good option for a lot of new content creators who are facing this challenge.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing how tech comes out when there's problems to be solved. Tech comes out, solves their problem, but we have the problem to begin with. You know?
Yes, yeah.
But I've heard that's kind of what a lot of guys are doing now. Because even when you're making content for socials, you're making these reels and stuff. Like I make quite a few reels for Instagram, and it is such a hack to put these reels together. It's so much time for a 30-second or 40-second.
I mean, that's the other thing as well, is even with something like YouTube Shorts or with your Instagram, you know, just because of the format, you know, so you're going from landscape to portrait.
That's also you change the whole thing.
So now there's an additional step that you have to consider when you're actually shooting footage, because often you'll just take you know, you'll take a little section from, or you'll splice, you know, a few sections together to make up a short, you know, from a video that you might have already edited of some of the footage that's already shot. But now you need to, but I mean, like, I'm not gonna, you know, so I'm shooting in a landscape, but while I'm shooting it, I need to make sure that I can possibly still use some of that for a short. For shorts,
it's always
and then you need to be able to actually crop into that. You know, so that's like an additional thing that you also have to keep in mind.
Yeah. Content creation is a real deal, man. It's a full time job.
No, it's a lot of hard work. I mean, like, just besides from coming up with all the ideas and you know, because there's a lot of planning that goes into that as well. You know, once you have the idea, that's just half of it. You know, so.
I mean, it looks like such an ideal thing to want to do, right? It looks so glamorous. It looks like today's day and age. A lot of the Zoomers, a lot of the Gen Zs, like they want to be content creators. And I've got a lot of content creator friends as well who are actually doing it full time. And a lot of them say it gets scary. The moment content creation and YouTube stuff starts to be your sole income, it's then your boss. And that's a dangerous place to be, because it's like. One, you don't really have the security. You know how it is. Some videos will do good and some videos won't do good. It's just part of the game.
And you don't always know exactly which ones. You know, so I've had many videos where I thought, oh, this is going to be awesome, and then it like flops completely.
I always speak about this. Where it's like you spend the most time on something and over-engineer the living daylights out of this video, and you think it's going to do so well, and it just goes nowhere. And the one you spend the least amount of effort on, just like gets put together. And like
I don't know how it always works like that. And you've got this project that you've put so much time, effort, and money, and and time in, and then it goes absolutely nowhere.
I would love to know if anyone knows like the psychology around this. Please, can someone tell us? Because I have been down this road. I've spoken to so many people about this, even in music production, in video production, in all projects. The ones you spend the least amount of time on somehow push out the best results. They just become the best. It's like some kind of like, I don't know. I don't want to get too far into it, but it's some kind of like flow state you enter, because you don't really it is what it is, and it becomes organic and natural.
I mean, like possibly I mean, like, it's not the rule necessarily, but more often than not it seems to turn out like that.
The fact that I've had this conversation with so many creatives about this story, that like everyone's like, just don't try so hard. I'm like, thanks. I'm just trying. I don't know how to not try hard, But I know exactly.
So, but I mean, like, I'm my channel also operates in quite a niche. It's quite a small. Especially in South Africa, the audio community it's small. It's not very big.
Well, what would you say your demo is? Like, is it mainly overseas as a crowd, as a US?
Yes, So mainly, I have a relatively good South African following, which is also growing. But mostly, US, Europe, Brazil, and then but India has been on the rise.
Cool. Because of tech stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, I think just in general, overall.
I've also got a pretty big India following from India. Very cool.
So, but US is the strongest one.
Cool. Also, that's amazing, man. It's really cool to see. Like, I like to see. Did you say South African following is picking up, which is really, really cool. Like
a
few years ago, it was tricky to have. Like South Africa wouldn't support South Africa. I don't know. It was a weird thing, you know. I mean, I talk about it quite often, and it's like a weird thing where we need to kind of get the Western stamp of approval before we think.
The South African audio community is a strange one.
Okay, really.
And I've stopped to try to understand it. I mean, like, you know, when you know, back in 2008, when I started to teach myself how to design loudspeakers, one of the things I wanted to try was you know, to put kits together, you know. So, you know, I designed a few kits. So you can order a flat pack kit with, you know, all the panels for the enclosure, CNC routed out of MDF, and then, you know, you've got all the crossover components and the drivers that all comes with it, and in basically instruction booklet how to put it together, how to put the crossover and everything together. And man, I spent so much effort and time in that. Okay, and it went absolutely nowhere. Okay, I mean, like I even had an article feature in I think it was Audio Video magazine at that point of time. Okay. Nice. But our guys just never caught on to it. You know, the local guys just never caught on to it. So. And I think it's just because the market is so small.
Very niche.
Very, very niche. Very niche, yeah. So, you know, so my natural progression from that was to, okay, well, you know, if I don't have local guys that are going to support this, then, you know, what do I do?
Yeah.
You know, and the next best thing actually that made sense was YouTube. How do I enter that international market without having to actually sell anything, to be honest, you know? You know, so for me, that was YouTube, you know, to reach that international market and see whether through what I do, I can actually, you know.
Yeah. But I mean, the quality of your videos are top tier, the international quality, man. I had no idea in the beginning. I was like, I had no idea. Are you from Brackenfell or?
Well, at the moment I live in Tableview.
Side.
So but I mean, I grew up in Plumstead, you know.
There's no chance I would ever have thought, you know, this this guy from Plumstead or this guy from, you know, Tableview is producing like this high quality videos. And then I realized, and I clicked on the further videos and I had my audio on, and I was like, there's the accent. I hear it.
Yeah, I know there's a definite accent. Yeah, I don't know. I have like one of the things. I don't know why it's frustrating people so much, but you know, one of the things that everyone constantly points out to me in the comments, okay, is the way I say bold. Okay, bold. So they're like, I don't know. They just, I don't know if I'm saying it. Am I saying it in a weird way? I don't know. I mean, like I'm saying bold. I don't know.
It's the South African accent, I think.
Yes, but that's the one thing that the guys are always pointing out. So now whenever I'm doing like a voiceover, I'm like bold, and I'm like specifically trying to pronounce it correctly.
No, man, keep it. It's
I forget. Okay, and then I just continue.
That's awesome. And I mean, have there been any like cool behind the like what are the funny behind the scenes stuff, or like any things that you know your followers might have been like that they're not aware of when they watch videos, or like
I don't know if I have that many funny moments, but I think one of the things that's most common is just that not everything that you do works out the way you want. Okay, but that doesn't necessarily always make it into a video. I could probably do more with that. Okay, you know, maybe people will find that more interesting, but it's sometimes difficult to sort of like work in. You know,
I feel like a lot of the time, I mean, especially this new age of YouTube, new age of content creation, it's becoming. I mean, at least for me, I try and make it a lot more authentic. Like people want authenticity these days. You know.
Yeah.
People are. I mean, like a lot of the time, if your stuff, if your content what's the word I'm looking for here? If it's comes across as too professionally produced, it looks like an ad. And then like a lot of the stuff that takes off and like people really engage with the stuff that's just recorded willy-nilly, nonchalant, you know, with like some text, and because it feels authentic and behind the scenes, it's like, oh, okay, cool, you can actually relate to that person.
This
guy's a human being.
Yes,
you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I mean, I haven't done a lot of that.
It's difficult though.
It is very difficult because I'm not necessarily, I don't see myself as being very natural in front of a camera.
Okay.
You know, so for me, it's it's always been so that's why I started my channel. And, you know, I mean, like my face was never on the camera. You know, it was never on camera. So that's how it started.
But recently you've kind of been on.
Yes, I have. Yeah. So because of just what you've said, is that I feel like I need to, sort of like change, how I do certain things, because
so you kind of explain to people that it's not some kind of like professional team of guys who are producing these videos. It's just a guy in his garage, and
that's exactly what it is.
To this person. I think that's a really good take.
Yeah, because I'm like I say, I'm doing one project every month, and that's just it's impossible for me to maintain that kind of schedule. Okay, that sort of like run me into the ground a little bit. By the end of last year, so. I've done a lot of thinking in terms of what am I going to do to change that. So I'm probably going to be doing less projects, okay, but I'll try and do more videos about them, okay, about each project. So instead of just doing I'll do one long video so you can watch the build from the beginning to end. But I do want to, in between, give guys more of a more of a casual representation of, hey, this is what I'm working on and this is what I'm doing, and appear on camera, make it a little bit more relatable.
I think you'll get there. I think the whole camera presence thing. I mean, I'm nowhere near experienced enough to be talking about this topic, but but I've spoken to a lot of other guys. It's a very weird thing. Like when the camera turns on, you kind of change. And it's like, this is weird.
I know,
you know
right?
What I mean?
Yes,
it's a weird psychological thing. It's like, what are you doing? Everyone wants to know who you are, not like this person who's suddenly subconsciously become, right?
Yes.
And so a lot of the times I've met guys who they've said you go through the phase of that like weird like change, and then it starts to drop off, and then you just become your authentic self.
You just become that's good to know.
Yeah, okay? You get there. There's light.
Yeah, that's good to know. Yeah, because I've tried various ways. I've gone with a teleprompter. Okay, so I'm reading off a teleprompter. In like one of my last videos, I think all I did is I just spoke, okay, and then like afterwards you watch it, I'm like, wow, I'm umming quite a bit, okay, but then I'm like, I'm not going to reshoot that now, okay, it's just going to have to go, and then hopefully next time, it's better.
It literally is just practice. It's just one of those things. Like I have a few friends also who do hosting and like at events and stuff, and I'm so inspired by the way So she does this. So she does like events where she'll speak. It's hard to explain. At like an esports event or whatever. Yeah. But it's so impressive to have like the camera roll and then just don't make a mistake. She just goes and
that's amazing.
And how they just
amazing.
keep going.
I don't know how people do that.
How do you not? Like, it's live. Yes. How do you not make any mistakes?
Yes. Yeah.
And at the end of it, it's like, okay, cool.
No, I sometimes have to do like something 5 times over. Okay, it's like 5 shoots. But not only because I'm not saying what I want to say, but sometimes I fall over my words I mispronounce something, or and stupid things like that.
I think we just need to remind ourselves we're human, and everyone's human, and at the end of the day, you eventually you get over that kind of stuff, and as long as you don't like beat yourself up about it.
I mean, like, it's this is something I'm passionate about, and it's something I want to share with the world out there, and so just from that perspective, it's like, hey, just like feel free to be yourself and share with people, who have the same passion as you, so it's all just sort of like remembering who you're speaking to.
So coming back to the audio stuff and the making cool things, from a tech side of things, what are your preferences when you're designing, like when it goes into making a new a new build, right? Are you 3D printing stuff? Are you CNCing? Are you? I mean, obviously you can go check this out on your channel, but just from like a podcast point of view,
yes.
Are you, what's your go-to?
So,
didn't you do one where you just 3D printed entire housing?
Yes, I've done that. Yes,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I mean, I started to play around with 3D printing. It's always something I've been interested. I mean, as an industrial designer, that's something I would be interested in naturally, I would imagine. So, and I then, so I got my first 3D printer. I think it was probably, I don't know when it was, but it was a few years ago, and I started to play around with that. But the problem with that is that, how do you design something in 3D printing, and then make that and make that accessible to as many people as possible, because what I do is I sell draw up build plans for many of my projects.
I was actually gonna ask about that, because on your YouTube channel you've got this thing where you is it a Patreon, or is it like
I do have Patreon as well. Yes, yeah.
Okay. So how do people access the build plans?
So the build plans they're all on my website. So I have a website, soundblab.net. Okay, and so cool. I'll put things like any kind of speaker or amplifier test or something, or whatever that I do on there. I'll put all the builds that I do on there, so and then also I have a shop section on the website that have the build plans. So
okay. So when we say build plans, what is it? Is it like the
it's a PDF, but it's a complete it's a very comprehensive set of instructions, okay, that tells you exactly where you can buy the parts, and then a cut list of all the wood that you need, or or a list of all the parts that you need, how to put the enclosure together, how to build the crossover, and then actually eventually end up with the loudspeaker exactly like I built it.
That is so much like work that goes into that.
It's an insane,
not only are we producing the
amount of work,
we're recording the content, we're also making a build plan for that thing.
Yes, yeah.
You deserve way more subs than 130, bro. That's crazy.
That's the one thing that's killing me at the moment on the build plans, okay? But it's worth it. I mean, like the income that generates actually is more than what you.
That does well.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's grown quite a bit, and it's I've been blessed. It's been going very well. And like I say, the income I generate from that is more than what YouTube pays me in ad revenue.
Well, it's incredible.
Yeah.
I'm glad because it's like. As I was saying before, like you don't want to have YouTube being the sole source, because it becomes your boss. As long as you venture out of it more, and use your skills and your creative ability to kind of monetize that. And do what you do.
Yeah, look, I mean, like without that, I'm not able to do this, because I mean, like all the parts and everything that I use, the stuff's all imported. You get nothing here.
Besides the woods and the screws and the stuff that you're cutting in your garage, all the electronic stuff.
Everything, all the drivers, all the crossover parts, everything. It's all I have to import all of that.
Crazy,
is
it Shenzhen side, or is it Europe side, or
I used to start getting that from the US, and then the US started to become more expensive than Europe. Okay, now I'm getting stuff from Europe.
Europe-based stuff.
Yeah, just the shipping is a lot less expensive from there.
I feel like this is misconception with guys who don't know a lot about audio equipment, that if you're making your own stuff, it's not good quality. Like it does, like there needs to be some kind of crazy, black magic happening in factory somewhere in order for like to be really good. Do you feel like there's a misconception around hand making audio equipment that wouldn't be good in comparison to just store bought stuff from wherever? Because obviously, before you continue, I've seen some of the videos where you do a test at the end, right? And obviously, your test is only as good as my speakers, like
pretty
hearing
much,
it,
yes.
right? So obviously I can hear where the highs are hitting, I can hear the lows, but I mean, provided my headphones actually can produce that, and YouTube's bitrate audio bitrate can push.
Yeah, I mean, like for me, that's a demonstration that what I've built works.
Fair enough.
Okay, not a test at all. But the moment I exclude that from a video, guys go completely insane. So it's just like, but you don't playing this way, that way. So I'm like, okay, cool, I'll put it in. Okay, but just remember, it means nothing. But people still make they still make choices based on that.
Yeah.
Okay, it's just how people work. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I hear you. I mean, so are you? So before we wrap it up a little bit more, I just want to find out, like, if you had any advice to other guys who were maybe not necessarily also wanted to jump down the journey of specifically making audio stuff. That's very, like you said, is super niche, but YouTube plus creating their own thing. Maybe they do stone masonry, or they're really good with their hands, and they're a creative in some sort. Like, any advice, like for these guys starting out? Like, I know I always have my set of advice from beginners. Like, what would you say?
The most important thing is to actually just start. Okay, very often we try and plan it out and look at what other guys is doing and overanalyze things, and actually just start making something.
Making is cool.
And once you start getting your content out there, you can start chopping and changing and making the quality of your video better. I mean, like, I started with my iPhone. You know, that's what I started with. So, and then
humble beginnings.
And absolutely. And some of those videos that I've made with my iPhone are still some of the videos that are doing the best. You know.
Yeah. So there's a few things around that. It's so interesting to hear, because I always say to guys, like, you want to start, that's cool. Just remember, you're going to suck, and it's part of the journey. Your first couple of videos, they're going to be terrible. It's just the way this game works. Like, if you want to be good at something, you have to risk being bad at it first. That's just the way it works, right?
So
when I see someone starting a new thing, I'm never like, and obviously the first couple of videos are like bad. I'm not never like, oh, that's like, dude, amazing! You're creating stuff. You finally actually put yourself out there, and you're showing the world what you're doing.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what I'm saying. The best thing is just to start, and then it's like concentrate on your strengths. If you, I didn't feel comfortable in front of the camera right in the beginning, so I didn't appear in front of the camera.
A lot of guys can't even hear their own voice on camera. Like,
I didn't even do a voiceover. I was just playing music.
That's how.
So and I was relying on what I was good at, and that was building something. And then actually filming it, and then I can show people how I do that. That's what I felt I was good at. And then later on, you start to feel a little bit more confident. And I started to do voiceovers and. And now I'm a little bit more in front of the camera, and as you grow, you build more confidence in what you do, so it's like if you are good at appearing in front of the camera, hey, go do that.
You already have that as
exactly. Exactly. So. But like I said, just start and do something.
So before we wrap it up, I want to find out, so you as a craftsman, as a content creator, what are the next upcoming projects? Like, what are the goals you have for 2024? Like, what can we expect from SoundBlab and Hanri?
Well, for one, I want to appear in front of the camera more.
Cool, love it, yeah.
Okay, and just, to try and see if I can, just relate to my audience, more than I'm used to. But I have I have really cool projects. I have more projects in mind than I will be releasing this year. Okay.
Cool.
But like I say, I always work almost like a year ahead. So at the moment, I'm working on I have a company called Relic. They make sort of like multi-room wireless products like amplifiers and wireless devices. So for the DIY market, and they sent me some speaker drivers which they have launched I think during last year, so I've used some of those in a build already, but now I'm doing another 2 projects with that. One is a center channel, and then one is another taper quarter wave tube loudspeaker. I'm just using one of the smaller 5-inch drivers.
Got you. Do you do collaborations with people, or do you do collaborations with more like suppliers, or like
my collaborations at this stage more with suppliers or sponsors.
Look, collaboration is always like a really good way to build channels and build your presence.
Yes,
It's just tricky in your position because it's so niche. I don't think there's any other South African YouTuber who's doing this kind of thing.
No, not that I'm aware of.
You know what I mean? You're the only one. So it's like I just got to collab with someone who's maybe interested in that kind of stuff, but in a different field, I guess.
Yes, maybe. I mean, like I haven't really. It can feel quite alone, to be honest. I mean, like I'm. I haven't really delved into the arena of. Sort of like connecting with some other YouTubers, local or not.
Man, that's crazy. I've got so many people, all YouTuber friends who do all different types of stuff.
But it's probably mostly just because I'm so busy. Okay, it's like I literally don't have time. And just thinking about that is almost daunting. So, but it's definitely something I think it's definitely something I would like to be able to do more.
Do more.
Yes, and that's why I'm trying to change a little bit how I'm doing things at the moment. Cool. So that's sort of like what what everyone can expect is, the channel changing a little bit in that regard.
Amazing. Yeah. A little more authentic, seeing a little bit more of you.
Seeing a little bit more of me, and just trying to I mean, I also wanna share more of my knowledge. Like at the moment, a lot of what I do is just what you see. There's not a lot of explaining going on often in terms of how a loudspeaker works. Or I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and they said, they watched my video for one of my videos for the first time, and they didn't have a clue what I was saying.
Interesting.
Okay, and it's just someone who, so you have someone who's potentially interested, okay, to learn more, okay, but when you get into, this arena of audio, which is quite niche, if you don't already have a little bit of background or knowledge about, that industry, then you can just easily go over your head.
That's super interesting, because I think when you've entered a phase in that content creation space where you have this niche who know what you do.
Exactly.
And if you have to now start to educate another more people through into your channel, the niche of people who know what you're doing might get bored with the content, because it's like, hey, I know all this stuff, but it's like you're not appealing to them now. You've got to like somehow make the video both interesting and educational.
I mean, for me, it's important to grow that that audience, okay, because my goal is to get people into the world of audio, okay, just because I'm so passionate about it, and it can sometimes be difficult to do that when right from the beginning you don't really know or understand the lingo or the talk or the
I'd love to know. I'd love to have some more educational videos from you. Like, this was conversation, although it's been super enlightening. If there was more, I think it would do really well. I mean, I don't know how you would structure it, but I think if you
still working on it.
Yeah. But I mean, that would be a really good place to see your channel go to.
Yeah, cool.
For sure.
Awesome.
Look, we don't have too much more time left. Thank you so much for being with me.
Dude, this was an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. Okay, I really enjoyed it.
Awesome, man.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks.